Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to the George Benson football channel for your Chelsea news video. I'm wearing this one again. So many of you guys asked me in the comment section of the vlog, which if you watch the vlog, then you'll know where I got this from. It was given to me as a gift and I've been looking online and I don't think this NFL shirt is available on the Chelsea Megastore right now. But again, thank you once again for getting me this shirt, and when it is available, I will leave a link to it in the description. And of course, now that Chelsea have flipping won the Club World Cup, we will have a gold badge in the middle of our shirts, home, away, third kit, until 2029. And some people are saying that it doesn't aesthetically look as nice as the old badge. I'm not going to entertain it. It's about the pride. It's about what we've achieved. And if you guys do want to get yourselves any of the new shirts with the new badge on it, there are links in the description. Use the code GBFC10 at checkout and you'll get 10% off your order. So let's go through the Chelsea news today. Starting with this, Chelsea's only two options in regard to the stadium is demolishing Stamford Bridge and building a new stadium on the site, or building at Earl's Court. This is at the moment one of the tricky predicaments that Chelsea are in. First of all, is the Earl's Court site even available? Secondly, where would we go if we were to demolish Stamford Bridge and rebuild? It's a difficult conversation to have, this one, because at the same time I understand Chelsea will be falling behind every single year that we don't have 60,000, 70,000 gate revenue every weekend, and at 42,000, that isn't anywhere near one of the biggest stadiums in the Premier League. So Chelsea are missing out. And the difficulty here is I don't ever want to leave Stamford Bridge. And that's just my personal feeling towards it. Obviously, as a Chelsea fan my whole life, I don't want to be playing matches at a different stadium. But I also understand financially, it just isn't going to be feasible to be selling 40,000 tickets every week for the longevity of the football club being competitive in a financial sense in the Premier League. So I don't really think there's any updates on this one. We've been talking about new stadiums for about 5 to 10 years, and it's the same storyline every single time. So let's move on to the next piece of news. Cole Palmer on Donald Trump. When he gave me the award, he said his son is my biggest fan. Palmer said, I can't remember what I said. I think I said thank you or something. Now, I'd love to watch like a 20-minute interview between Donald Trump and Cole Palmer. Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to get that to happen. Is Donald Trump's son actually a massive fan of Cole Palmer? If he is, then great stuff. But I do think all in all, whatever you think of Trump, I'm not here to talk about politics on GBFC, that's for sure. Whatever influence Chelsea had in America, it is now exponentially bigger as a result of this tournament. Seeing Donald Trump, the president of the US, giving out the medals, giving out the trophy, and even stealing a medal for himself. Absolutely flipping bonkers, I'll tell you that for free. But I think it's interesting in terms of what we're going to see in terms of Chelsea's presence here in the US moving forward. So, Ben Jacobs was on Alex Goldberg's stream and they were talking about Chelsea's summer transfer targets. And The Athletic also reported earlier this week that there are 3 players right now that Chelsea are looking at. Joel Hato of Ajax, Alejandro Garnacho of Manchester United, and Morgan Rogers of Aston Villa. And this is what Ben Jacobs had to say on Morgan Rogers. Morgan Rogers is a dream target for Chelsea, but I am not aware of a way that Chelsea sign him at the moment, even perhaps with Nicholas Jackson being a target for Aston Villa. Villa have an untouchable tag over Rogers. We know that the word untouchable in a footballing transfer sense doesn't really hold any weight until the transfer window is over. We have currently got Saudi Arabian clubs looking at spending 350 million euros to bring Vinicius Jr. to Saudi Arabia, and I'm pretty sure Vinicius Jr. would be seen as untouchable by Perez and Alonso at Real Madrid. So the untouchable label, I don't really believe in any of it, to be quite honest. I'd like to. If we're talking about some of Chelsea's players, I'd love for Palmer, Caicedo to all be actually untouchable for the next 10 flipping years. But Morgan Rogers to Chelsea. We're going to go through and take a little look at this in a minute. You guys know that we absolutely love this graphic, and you can see at the top there, we've got Rodgers, Eze, and Garnacho. And we're going to kind of go through and take a look at certain scenarios where if Jackson's sold, if Felix is sold, if Nkunku is sold, because at the minute, we don't really know what's going on here. You've got rumours that Aston Villa want Nicholas Jackson. Manchester United want Nicholas Jackson. So there could be a sense and a negotiation between Man United and Chelsea. If United want Nkunku or Jackson, then Chelsea will most likely inquire for Alejandro Garnacho that way. Does it work the same with Aston Villa? If Morgan Rodgers truly is untouchable, which at this point he might be, because remember, Aston Villa was supposed to make X amount of money before the new financial year in footballing terms. They sold their women's team the same way that Chelsea did in order to comply with PSR. So you're not going to hear me putting in a peep about that one, because if we did it, of course everyone else is going to try and do it too. That's why Premier League clubs didn't vote against this, because they knew that they would have the opportunities to do the same. When it comes to what is actually going to happen here, we got to weigh up the probabilities of who do we actually think is more likely to go for Nicholas Jackson, because when you see this, we've got Morgan Rodgers and Alejandro Garnacho as options. And if we're going to move these players around, I would put Garnacho in the left wing category. He's a left winger out and out. Morgan Rodgers is very much where we've got that number 3 right now, which is the hybrid player between the left winger and also the number 10. And when we think about Joao Pedro and what we saw of him in the first 2.5 matches of his Chelsea career, you guys can see now I've actually put him ahead of Liam Delap, and we did this just before the semi-finals of the tournament. Mark Hughes there as an option, but there are still these guys, Nicholas Jackson and Christopher Nkunku. I'm not even going to entertain the idea of Joao Felix staying for now, because I think he's absolutely gone, and I do think it would probably be the hardest player for Enzo Maresca to try and conjure up some kind of tactical plan to keep him in the team. So let's move back to this again. Eze we're just going to leave up here for now, because I don't think the Eze to Chelsea story is strong enough. But Morgan Rodgers just doesn't go away. So if you sign Morgan Rodgers, the likelihood will be this: Nicholas Jackson gone. Does that leave a space for Nkunku? Probably not. But I do think if Chelsea struggle to get rid of Christopher Nkunku, then maybe we see Nkunku as one of those options. Now, Christopher Nkunku, I don't think ever joined Chelsea anticipating that he was going to be a backup man. I don't think Nkunku ever wanted or planned to be a bit part player, to be playing Conference League football, though this coming season, it's going to be a little bit different, isn't it? Because we're not playing Conference League, we're playing Champions League. So when it comes to this kind of squad depth that we're looking at here, is that going to be enough for Chelsea? And if I take Garnacho out of that too, I don't see a world where Chelsea don't sign another attacker, because that's leaving far too much on Nkunku. And then Mark Guiu, who I think is a player that could have more opportunities, but I don't think Maresca fully trusts him yet. So if we look at that and we don't sign anybody else, you got Gittins and George on the left, Palmer, Joao Pedro, Dewsbury Hall, potentially there. You've also got the potential of Enzo Fernandez there too. If we do play Reece James in this position, move Caicedo over to there, and then you've got Enzo Fernandez as a potential option in that, based on what we saw in the final, where Pedro Neto was over on this left side and Cole Palmer was then over on the right. So there's definitely options here. And Chelsea's business, from now until the end of the transfer window, we know it's going to be predominantly sales. I don't think there's any world where we sign any more than 3 players maximum between now and the end of the window. If I'm being realistic, right? Because we're going to look at Joel Hato. I think Joel Hato could be one of those guys that comes in. Ajax apparently might be willing to entertain offers of around £40 million. And that is what we've heard from Ben Jacobs. There's also an update here regarding Marc Cucurella and a contract, saying he's very happy to stay at Chelsea and is also happy with his wage package. So there's no real agitation on that end from Chelsea, which is great news, because Marc Cucurella is a fantastic left back and he's also one of the more experienced members of the squad. So Joel Hato, I absolutely think, is a great option, because not only is he left back cover for Marc Cucurella, who, look, Cucurella plays so much football, we're going to need to protect him. if, God forbid it happens, but if there was ever to be an injury to him, I want someone that can do the getting up the wing the way that Cucurella does. Because what I find fascinating about Maresca's tactics in the final is that it was Malo Gusto going further forward with, as you can see here, Cole Palmer playing on that right side with the ability to cut in, to connect with the likes of Joao Pedro. So, based on all of this, I think Chelsea right now, it could be any of them. It could be Garnacho. If it's Garnacho, this is what it looks like. You've got Garnacho fighting with Gittins and Tyreek George. What would happen to him? Would it be alone? You're probably likely to see something a bit like that with Joao Pedro or Delap fighting for that number 9. But I also think the combination that we saw, the link-up play between Palmer and Joao Pedro, even in the flipping second game that we've ever seen Pedro play, let alone the fact he scored a brace in the semi-final, I honestly think it's going to be impossible to keep Joao Pedro out of this team because the link up with Palmer was just so good. And moving forward, right, who do I want to see the club sign? I would love for it to be Morgan Rogers. I don't know if it's going to be possible. And when we look again at this graphic to see the options here, if we don't manage to sign him, will Nicholas Jackson stay? And I've been thinking about this more and more over the course of the day. And obviously, I'm in the US right now, so you guys see this at 7 a.m. the following day. I've been thinking more and more about Jackson. And as much as the goal-scoring record isn't bad, we cannot just forget the fact that he had those 2 red cards in massive moments. He's missed so many big chances at times since he's been at Chelsea. But I also can't help but think that he's going to go somewhere else and do really well. And this is the problem that we've got with this model, where we have bought so many young players. And of course, when you buy youngsters, they're not all going to be immediate hits. There's going to be some that will go, such as maybe Noni Madueke at Arsenal, such as it could be Nicholas Jackson. There are some that are going to go and they're going to be better players than they ever were at Chelsea. But this is football. Not only can we not sign everybody, but we're also not going to be able to anticipate keeping everybody either, because you can only play 11 players every game. And this coming season, even the squad players are going to be like, look, I want to be playing Champions League football. I deserve a run-in. I deserve a shot in the Premier League. And competition is very healthy, but at the same time, when we look at this, and if I remove the duplicates for a second, and if I do put Enzo Fernandez back into the midfield, then we've got Esteval, Neto, Palmer, Dewsbury Hall, that's 4. Joao Pedro 5, Delap, Guiu, Jackson, that's 7. Gittins, George, that's already 9. And then if you sign Garnacho, that's 10. Apparently Chelsea wanted 9 attackers. So maybe that means Garnacho also goes out. Maybe we don't sign another attacker, but I think we need to. I'm still worried about only having Gittins and Tyreek George on the left. I know that Neto can do it. We can see Palmer come off the right the same way we did against PSG. But I also don't want us to get carried away by that one game against PSG where we were fantastic. And I know that we were brilliant throughout the tournament. You guys know that. I've spoke about it in so many pieces of content now. I don't want to go into this season understaffed in any positions. If Nkunku goes and Jackson goes, I think Chelsea must buy another attacker. And look, I'm seeing people on the timeline today saying, well, maybe we should just give Joao Felix another go. I think that experiment was something that Chelsea did it for PSR reasons last summer. I don't think Maresca ever really wanted him in the team. And I think now that we've seen what the manager can do, we've won 2 trophies, we've got top 4, I think it's time to start trusting in what Enzo Maresca wants from the squad. So, let me know your thoughts. Jorrel Hato to Chelsea. Are we going to see this one materialise? 40 million quid is what is being rumoured to be possible. Ajax wanted 60. As the window goes on, that price probably will get lower, but Chelsea will want to move quickly. And also, is it going to be Morgan Rogers? Is it Garnacho? And is it Eze? At the minute, if I was to make a prediction as to what I think is most likely, I think it will be Garnacho, because I do think Morgan Rogers will be just too expensive. And I can also see Man United going in for Nicholas Jackson. It depends on what happens with Ollie Watkins. This is why we got to talk about the transfer news of all of these other clubs, because Ollie Watkins apparently wants the Manchester United move. United have just spent 120 or 130 million on both Cunha and Mbeumo. So are they going to have the funds for an Ollie Watkins or a Nicholas Jackson? So in which case, does that rule Man United out, or an Nkunku? You see where we're going with this? It's just like a constant conveyor belt of it could be this, it could be that. It's like trying to get your suitcase, but everyone's got the same flipping suitcase on the belt right now. That feels like is what it's like. Villa have got a player that we want. We got a player that they want. Same for Man United. So at this point in time, it's a bit of a stalemate. Everyone's waiting to see who's going to move first, who's going to go where. But in an ideal world, Chelsea signed Morgan Rogers. And I think if I was to bring this up one more time, I think we've also, and you guys are going to hate this, and this is why I've left this till the end of the video. I don't want this to happen, by the way. Just to clarify, this is not what I want. It's what I could realistically see happening in the future. And I don't like this, but we could see Enzo Fernandez sold one day. So if that were to be the case, Santos is there as a backup, obviously, and Morgan Rogers could potentially do what Enzo Fernandez does now. Now, I'm not saying this is going to happen. Absolutely not. I'm just foreshadowing beyond this season. Squad is improving. It's developing massively. But I also think we've got to keep an eye on the future. Yes, Enzo Fernandez did sign that massive long contract. But again, I can't go around saying the word untouchable means nothing in football and also not realising that when Real Madrid do come knocking sometimes, players want to go. And as much as I don't want it to happen, it might turn Enzo Fernandez's head in the future if he carries on the same trajectory he's going on now, which is a world-class midfielder, absolutely worth the price tag. And I love Enzo Fernandez, of course I do. Just wanted to throw that in there as a possibility looking way beyond for the future. Let me know your thoughts on all this today. Obviously, there's probably going to be more news dropping later on today, so stay tuned. Subscribe to GBFC for your second video later on. As I said at the start, if you do want to get this shirt, I'll let you know when it becomes available on the Mega Store. But also, there's tons of great stuff for Chelsea being world champions linked in the description. Use those links down below or the QR codes that we put on the screen, and you get yourselves 10% off with the code GBFC10. Thank you for watching. See you all later.